of misfits I ever said either.
Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning in to another episode of the Misfit podcast. On today's episode, we got a real banger. I'm not gonna bury the lead here. I got a lot of assets ready for live chat. I have three live chats. And two of them have videos associated with them. One just came to light last night. I already had one queued up from Sunday. So you should watch it on YouTube. We only get a couple hundred views on YouTube, so that's why I'm giving you guys the warning. Most of you listen. Otherwise, Hunter can try to help narrate. But the real episode, after we get through all that, that's going to take 2 or 3 hours at least, is about the new Gears Matrix, Gears Matrix 2.0. I teased this, and then I got sick, and Hunter went to the games, and I went to Phoenix, and Phase 1 times 12 happened, and all that good stuff. So this podcast has been kind of sitting and waiting. Gives us an opportunity to go back over the Gears Matrix, what we've learned from it. I've updated the actual matrix itself to include other things, some more specific workouts with work to rest ratio, all that good stuff. So good time to go back over it now that we've got some new windows in there. So housekeeping is super straightforward this week. If you want our individual programming, head to the link in bio and choose between Strive V or Fitter, and all of our programs are there. Our pro program is for semifinals and CrossFit Games athletes. Our comp program is for someone who would like to be able to see the Masters, GPP, and Hatchet. Hatchet is for open athletes and semifinals hopefuls. And we have the standalone GPP program, which is a pretty good segue into a shout out I want to give on here. It's funny because so much of what we do on this podcast to explain the programming and dive into things is either very specifically from the context of you're a competitor or you're an affiliate coach and sometimes an affiliate member, and that sort of leaves out the GPP athlete a little bit. And the results from that program have been pretty incredible. I think that can happen, as we know, at the affiliate level, when you kind of shorten up that movement tracker a little bit and people just get to work and they run, they row, and they bike, and they, lift weights and get to practice their push-ups and strict pull-ups and stuff like that on a regular basis. So it's a really cool program. It's basically to get people involved that don't have an affiliate to go to and don't want to compete. It's our cheapest option. Again, really great results on here, really great program, if I do say so myself. And then I will update this story and tell you the name of this person if they give me permission to do so next week. But I'm going to read the message anyways. Pretty fucking cool, man. Back in June, I weighed 229 pounds. I fluctuate a lot with my weight. I've got a poor relationship with food. I used to weigh 303 pounds before finding CrossFit, so you can imagine what that has left me with in my behaviors and how I handle nutrition. But on Friday, I weighed in at 215 pounds. Been really trying to make a mind shift nutritionally. Been reading lots of books and articles on this topic that have helped. Friday was the first time I saw a real change in the workouts in a long time. I shaved over 90 seconds off my time. So this is in a specific kind of benchmark type workout. If I remember correctly, there's running in it as well, which is obviously, your strength to body weight ratio is pretty damn important. And honestly, just your body weight, almost your body weight to fitness ratio, I guess, could be another way to put that. Definitely feel like this type of programming is perfect for me, where I'm at in my life, and the culture you guys have created with Misfit is something really cool and something I'm really happy to be a part of. Not sure where I'm going with this, but I guess I just appreciate what you guys have brought to my life with Misfit Athletics. Much love. Those messages are awesome. We get that type of message. We got a really cool one that we'll go over in another episode, hopefully with some supporting media from a gym member recently. We got the 66 PRs from Nicole at CrossFit Roots. That stuff really sort of keeps us motivated, keeps us going, lets us know how you guys are doing. So always cool stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll keep that train rolling here. This will be, I don't know if this is live chat at this point. I feel like you got way too many important things for that to have been live chat, but this will caveat nicely into that. And we chatted a little bit about, gave Kelly and Justin props in the Masters CrossFit Games the other week. But back home, one of my athletes, Tony, and I'm not afraid to say his name because we've done that before. And fuck you, Tony.
Sup, Tony?
Just kidding. I have a 1 rep max overhead squat PR, C2 bike cube test PR, 75 continental drive PR, row cube test PR, 30 muscle up for time PR, King Larry PR, Chuckles 1 and 2 PR, ski erg cube test PR, might not PR, bumper cable PR, power clean max PR, fairy dust PR, or a tie push jerk PR, cupcake lungs PR, echo bike cube test PR, and the almighty ever sought 300-pound clean, which I'm convinced Tony just did because he was terrified of the jerk, so he forgot that he was concerned at all about the 300-pound clean, which looked like an air squat, but he'd never cleaned it before. That all occurred over the last five weeks of phase 1 retesting. So wanted to give him a shout out. And what was kind of cool is that over the last year, really the only thing that's changed is nothing that's changed about his program. He hasn't been doing more or less. All that came down to a conversation we had that resulted in just saying like, hey, you don't need to necessarily do more. Just do what you're currently doing a little bit better. And that wasn't even necessarily like the physical act of doing it better. This came down to things like actually putting some detailed notes as to how the workout went, what happened, whether it was a strategy thing, whether it was a workout execution, whether it was just like, fucking life got the better of me today and I felt like shit and this was just a check in the box, whatever it was. All it came down to was just a little bit more intention with like, hey, I'm going to warm up and actually think about what I'm about to do. When I'm cooling down, I'm actually going to reflect on what I just did. Resulted in, zero theoretical additional time in the gym and all just kind of optimizing the time that he has to train, which is effectively lift conditioning skill. He doesn't do more than that. His job and time doesn't allow, and I think that's worked super well for him. So kudos to Tony on that massive phase 0 PR where they just kept coming and coming. He even had one or two in the first week of phase 1 where we front squatted like 365 pretty easily in the back squat survivor. Poor bastard's doing volume front squat instead. Wanted to make sure he got a shout out for all his hard work last year, and that kind of segued nicely from that message.
Yeah, I mean, we need that are set by people like Tony and other athletes in our community for athletes to look at, because we can sit here and talk as much as we want. We don't follow the competitor program. We need these examples to show people how to set a standard for themselves, for the community. And one of the ways that you can do that is by looking under new rocks. Like, if we know that his volume is going to stay similar, and yeah, you're going to change the program for strengths and weaknesses, but like, what is going to, I mean, I don't know how many years he is into this game, but he's been doing it for a while and he's been very consistent.
Yeah.
Over that period of time. And it's a reason why, and we'll revisit here within the next couple of months, our yearly Athlete IQ episode, but like, it's not just this or that. There's so many different avenues that you can go down. And he spoke, publicly and passionately about like taking onus on like, I got to start taking notes and paying attention to what I'm doing so I can refine. And that is not the same as like, I see brick wall, I run through brick wall, I smash head against brick wall. Like, you have to be able to do that. But there's 50 other things you got to be able to do. And one of them, if you want to get good at this, and he's the kind of person who puts himself out there and goes and does not just local comps, but he'll, travel.
Yeah, get ready to head to Wadapalooza and SoCal.
Exactly. So if he wants to be able to do that and wants to be able to improve, you have to put that responsibility on yourself of like, what's my next frontier? And like, I'd shed a single tear for someone who says they're actually going to take notes and pay attention to them and do it. Because it's like you have this mountain of data that could tell you exactly how to attack a workout. And so many people have CrossFit amnesia. And they're like, is this the one where you take the bar and you go from this to this? And it's like, oh my fucking God, you've snatched 800 times in your life. Don't you dare. And like, obviously that's an exaggeration, but.
Well, I wish it was more of an
exaggeration.
exaggeration.
I had one person, and this is typically in an affiliate setting, but I had one person who, like, when you open an affiliate in your first like year or two and you've got like 30 to 60 members, you do a lot of like personal training for free without knowing it. Like, people stay and they like want to know, like, and I'm the kind of fucking person who wants to go over the thruster for 45 minutes in detail. And I did this with someone, and the next day they asked what the movement was and had forgotten our entire session, and I was irate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I could not fucking believe it. We spent literally 45 minutes on thrusters, and he's like, what movement is that? What are you even talking about? And I was like, you're fired. Here's
Yeah.
your refund. Go away. I didn't
Yeah,
actually do that.
yeah. I'd like to pay you to leave.
Do you have a live chat?
I'll keep it. And also, by the way, this is a 6-year anniversary for Tony and I.
Wow.
September
Congrats, guys.
2019. Yeah.
What's the traditional gift on year 6? I always have to Google that
it's
every year.
unclear. We have our annual camp photo. That's always good. The father-son photo. So maybe we'll
stage it in Boulder, Colorado, in front of like a snowy mountain.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. My life chat is that I'm a headband guy now.
Yep.
It's unclear.
Tell them about your shirt yesterday. I need you to paint them a picture.
I was thinking about that too. Maybe I'll wear it. No, I copped one of the tie-dye pukey t-shirts. So
yeah, I like it.
Maybe this will be a good life chat, aside from the fact that I'm either just accepting that my hair's long or it's a potential like 1/3 life crisis. Both equally likely, possibly both occurring at the same time. Maybe a rare, at least recently. Shout out CrossFit for dropping the old pukey tie-dye t-shirt. Have you
seen any of their new marketing too?
That was going to be my segue. The marketing. I'm a big fan. I'm stoked that they're finally starting to push a little bit more eggs into the basket of the affiliate of the, hey, this is how CrossFit changed your life. If you go to .com, let me see what I just want to make sure it was actually correct. Yeah, it's like the marketing campaigns front and center. There's the CrossFit is for you. Like, here's a whole bunch of content on like why this works. Find a gym. Articles and stuff like that. So, and then the workout is actually, you got to kind of scroll down a little bit. It's kind of funny. Sherb and I were shooting the shit a little bit about it. And we were talking about like, main site of various kind of eras of CrossFit, the main site, which looked like, AOL.com for a little while. And then
good.
Yeah. When we were talking about like, well, should the workout be like, the thing, should it look like .com of old? And my argument's like, well, like, I don't know how many individual people go to CrossFit.com with the intention of doing a workout of the day. I feel like that was maybe more so where gyms were sparse, few and far in between. And now the fact that there are as many gyms as there are becomes a little bit less about seeking the workout of the day and actually providing information for people as to like, hey, here's the thing. Now go find your local affiliate, which, can argue that they should have been doing that for a really long time, but better late than never. So I'm a fan of the marketing push. I'm glad to see there's a good blend of athletes who are, in these videos and stuff, but also the people who really need to find CrossFit for the sake of their own health and longevity. Shout out CrossFit, but yeah, I'll wear the pukey tie-dye t-shirt. I had to cop that.
I just walked in yesterday and Hunter was wearing a headband and was wearing a tie-dye shirt. Honestly, even I think
just
his
ripping a
mood
bong.
his mood reflected that. And then we were in the meeting, in our Monday meeting, and Kyle beat me to the mentioning the tie-dye shirt and the headband together. So we were on the same page there. All right, Hunter, would you like to start with my NFL preview?
Oh, okay.
Or my Wilbur story from last night?
Wilbur, come on, Mal.
Yeah,
I'll take a nap during the NFL story, but hit me with a good.
I'm going to make the NFL one entertaining, and then if it's not, if you don't like sports ball, fast forward. It's my party, and I'll cry if I want to. All right. My wife is in Ireland for work. I am solo dadding, and I let Wilbur out last night, and I actually walked outside onto the porch.
Could you give the people a very brief description of Wilbur?
Yeah, so Wilbur is a 14-year-old French bulldog shaped like a potato. And if you're watching on YouTube, you're about to see him very upset and trying to bite me. And he doesn't run anymore, for sure. Like, sometimes he can't walk.
He rolls.
But I saw him running last night, and he runs under the deck. And we have, like, a deck, and then we have, like, a screened-in porch and, like, this little area between the screened-in porch and the garage that's, like, just barely up off the ground kind of a thing. So I saw him run under there, and I was like, that was weird. And, like, he cuts across a little bit and kind of comes out under the screen porch and then comes inside. It's no big deal. I go inside, I come back out, and I hear him under my feet. And I was like, this is not good.
Like you're standing on the deck and he is underneath
I'm standing
it.
on the screened-in porch, and I can hear him rustling in the leaves under my feet because the landscapers just blow all the leaves under the fucking thing. All right. So let's pull this baby up here. Can you see this?
Not right this
Once I
second.
hit play.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. You see Wilbur.
Fuck, I might even watch this episode on YouTube just to rewatch this.
Okay, so this is me realizing, so
That's him way back there?
that's him way back there, just above where the light is shining. Right in front of his head, you can see like a line. That's like a pipe or something. Well, that's the oil pipe.
Okay.
Turns out I'll fast forward. I don't fit under that pipe. All right, so let's... He laid down. So for the listeners, he is now walking further under the spot that I cannot fit under.
Into the corner of this. Yeah.
Okay. So...
How'd you get that close?
All right.
You can fit. Okay.
Okay, so here's the thing. This is what happened. I walked back over to the other side, and he this is in the future, but he's about halfway under this area, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to rip up the deck. But the piece that is on the bottom looks like you could just move it, but there's like 2x4 stacked behind it, so I couldn't get that. So I'm looking for my crowbar, and I'm literally gonna pull up my boards, which would ruin the fucking deck.
So is the
But,
deck pushing on top of him? Like he's that...
He can stand.
Okay.
He can stand. But I was like, okay, I want to check on him first. Let me see if I can shine the light under the deck. So this is, my phone is jammed under the deck here.
Okay.
And I have the light shining on him. But then I realize that I can dig him out. There's one tiny little spot where the pavers they end, and then the outside wall ends. So it's like about this much. So I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't find my fucking pry bar. Also, I'm thinking to myself, if I crawl under there and I get stuck, like Carter's sleeping, but it's probably not good.
Right. Yeah.
He also, as you'll find out later in this video, would never have let me pull him out. Like that would have, he's towards the end. That would have been really traumatizing for him. That would have been bad. He would have been like screaming and trying to bite.
You don't want to be
time.
yanking on those turkey legs there.
No. All right. So we'll jump back in here.
Yeah.
He's not happy. And do you see that pipe there?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Yeah. So that
This black
dug.
piece right in front of him.
No. Right, top right corner.
Top right. Yeah. Okay.
That is some electrical that goes out to my heat pump condenser. So
don't touch that.
I was able to dig it, but he got scared of that pipe.
Yeah.
So I had to leave him under there and go inside and find a drill to remove the conduit off of the concrete. So on the right, I'm digging a small trench, and he's like, all right, I'm going for it, because he can see the hole that I'm creating.
He sees what you're doing. Yeah.
But he's...
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He just started Frenchie talking like 6 months ago. Yeah, that's him trying to bite me.
Yeah.
You'll get a better... All right, so I came back. He had been under there for a couple minutes. I'm going to get my drill and a new battery. All right. And I'm filming this to show Maya, basically.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, this would be good for the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, come on, bud.
It's like, you have pulled my paw.
I'm getting out because I
times.
want to, not because you're making me.
Luckily, he can't bite me when I push his ass. That's how I got him out.
Yeah, not very flexible. Still just going for the nip. Fuck it.
The funny thing, too, is that's my dad voice.
Yeah.
That's how I talk to Carter. That's where that came from. It's like, okay, buddy, we're going to do it.
We can do it. Oh.
So that was my night last night.
What a potato.
Yeah.
Wait, so if he was respectfully an intelligent animal, would he have been able to U-turn and go back out the way that he came?
Yes.
Easily.
He walked under there.
Yeah, okay. All right,
Yeah.
Just wanted to be clear.
Uh-huh. And he looked pissed when I was shining the light on him.
Yeah, maybe
like,
he wanted...
I'm
maybe
hanging out
it
under
was
the
warm
deck.
down there.
Leave me the fuck alone.
Do you know why he unexpectedly ran out of the woods? I was
not.
worried we were going like coyote story here.
No, I have no clue. I honestly, he's my special boy. He's
Yeah. Might have just.
I don't know that there was
been
ever
the vibe
a
at the time.
ton going. Exactly, yeah. So with him, who knows?
I think I need.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, I took the time to edit that in iMovie this morning for you guys, for your entertainment.
Wow.
All right, NFL preview, the Misfit NFL preview. Here's what I'll say before we get into the videos, because I'm going to make this entertaining if you're watching. The Steelers have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback now. He is old and looks like the lower half of his legs are broken. He did tear his Achilles 2 years ago, but the kid can sling the rock and is crazy on like third down and in the red zone. The Steelers played the Jets. So the guy who started for the Steelers last year is now the Jets starting quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers was on the Jets last year and ceremoniously punted from the organization and kind of treated like shit, according to him.
Yep.
Now, for my story for the week, the Steelers have a kind of legendary cornerback named Jalen Ramsey that they traded for from the Dolphins. Jalen Ramsey is not only a shutdown corner, but also like lays the fucking smackdown on people, which is kind of rare, is a little bit big for that position. The top receiver for the Jets' name is Garrett Wilson. He went to college with Justin Fields. They were together in college at Ohio State, so they're like buds. So the first video I'm going to play here is Justin Fields getting hit by Jalen Ramsey. And then subsequently drawing the 15-yard flag here.
Is that a roughing the passer?
Yeah. No. He gets this. The Jets got a 15-yard penalty because the lineman came over and did that. And then this is very Jalen Ramsey right here to be doing that. All right. So Garrett Wilson decides that he is going to essentially try to fight with Jalen Ramsey for the rest of the game, which is honestly what Jalen Ramsey wants, clearly. So this is the following play. How's this going for him? And this happened the rest of the game. The rest of the fucking game.
Love that.
And then so the play that I will try to pause for here is literally the deciding play of the entire game. Okay? So we'll watch a little highlight tape of my boy Jalen. Eat it. So that's fun. Here comes Garrett Wilson catching a pass to extend the game. Jets win? Question mark? Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
That's what happens. You start shit.
And
that's a clean hit, too.
That's a beauty of a hit.
Let's watch it one more time. Garrett Wilson, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Nice, easy catch.
Doink.
Bye-bye.
Head was down. Oh, fuck yeah.
It was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful
Man,
thing.
there's like part of me that dislikes the theatrics and like the celebration and the like antics.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then there's like, it's got to be 50-50 where I'm just like, fuck yeah. Like, get up, get in somebody's kitchen, stay there, charge rent in their head. Like, I want to see it all game.
Drawing a 15-yard penalty is an art form in
For
that
sure.
sport.
Yeah.
And then getting people to, like, when you do that, you are entering his world and his game. Garrett Wilson is like quiet, incredible football player, but he's like sticking up for his guy. You get it. But then Jalen's like, all right, are we doing this? Is this how we want to play this football game?
Space for rent in your dome? I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. When I was like, I've very much been through both sides of it. Like when I was growing up, it was no showboating, act like you've been there before, that sort of thing. And then it's like, this is literally a entertainment form. These guys are not paid millions of dollars because they can run around fast.
Yeah,
that
I don't
makes
want
no
it to
sense.
be clean and sanitary.
Exactly.
Get 'em
and they're
fucking
actually trying to cut down on it again this year, supposedly. There's been some flags that are kind of
Cut down on the antics, or cut down on or just let the boys play.
No, it's the post. So they're being cooler about the celebrations in the end zone, but they don't want the taunting as much after the play. But
I see.
When they throw the flags so far, it's been so arbitrary. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like you can't discern one thing from the other. It's supposed to be like a warning, essentially.
Right.
So Aaron Rodgers threw for 4 touchdown passes. The Jets should have won. They played better almost the entire game, but they fumbled a kickoff, and that's just what the Jets do. They fumble or throw an interception or do something stupid. So that's my NFL preview. You get to listen to me for 1 to 4 minutes a week talk about the Steelers. Last but not least, what do you got?
No, I was going to... Have you seen America's Team, the Netflix? I don't know.
I haven't watched it
America's
yet, no.
Team? I watched
the Cowboys
episode,
one.
The Cowboys one, yeah. I watched episode 1.
good.
It's sick. It's really well done.
Yeah. It's
That's
funny
all.
too because there's like a continuation of it. I don't know how much of the Micah Parsons stuff was going on during the documentary or whether they reference it towards the end. But
I haven't seen it yet, but I've only seen the first episode.
Yeah. My third live chat, I'll make this one quick just so I can update you guys. I have acquired dad bod for the third time in 3 years of being a father. I'm really it boils down to confusing what sacrifices I should make. I am sacrificing my personal health for work, which can sometimes get lumped in and be confused with. I am perfectly fine sacrificing basically anything for my wife and my son, but those worlds get kind of like mixed up a little bit because you're like, okay, I got to make sure that I'm home at this time and I'm present and I'm paying attention, but it's very much like not doing certain things that I should be doing based on my schedule. And what I've come down to, what I think my fix is my backup plan has to be quick CrossFit. So if I don't have the time to do my zone 2, if I can't go do a long bike ride, if I can't do whatever, hour-long strict press session, so get out there, do your 12-minute warm-up, do the workout of the day, modify it, that sort of thing. Like, I get too wrapped up in the this is what I had scheduled for the week for my sessions, and if I can't do those, which has been the case a lot recently, then I don't end up doing anything.
Yeah.
So we're gonna work on that. It seems to be once a year.
See a smiley face next to your name on strict press day, which was mildly concerning.
I didn't have time since Maya's traveling. I went out there and did the workout and then left. So I very much would have loved
You did
to
not
try to do
strict
165.
press,
Correct.
I see.
Yes,
Okay.
I would very much love to see if I could beat Jack. I don't know if I could though. I don't know if I had 165 by 5 after that workout. I was hurting after that work.
You did the Metcon first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the gift that kept on giving. It was like pretty bad during, and then I did not feel well for like a few minutes after. All right. The gears matrix. Here's how we're going to do this. I want to give you guys the origins of where this came from. Then we'll explain it. We'll talk about the original version, and then we'll sort of get into the additions, the new matrix, how to use it, where to download it, all that good stuff. I'm actually going to read my origins thing here because it puts me back into the headspace of the sort of when I did this in the beginning. All right. The origins of the gears matrix combine 11 years of data, a simple remote coaching tool, and a meathead kneeling at the altar of linear progression. It took 8 or 9 of those 11 years to develop a chart showing the optimal duration of rounds, total volume, and rest periods needed to move the needle in a test and retest format consistently. So think your cube test, your Mount Dooms, any of your power output, wattage tests, that sort of thing. Along the way, it became clear that the more time spent at different paces, that resulted in a trend towards high intensity. So maybe you start round 1 of any of these workouts we'll reference in zone 3, and then you end up in zone 5, the better that the retest data looked. As a remote coach, this led me to track my athletes' results in a spreadsheet that allowed me to personalize workouts to force that different spectrum of pacing. Setting aside zone 2 and power output sessions, I found that I could create workouts at roughly 8 separate speeds that could all trend into uncomfortable territory by the end of the workout. Not only should all coaches and athletes have access to this document, but it should be used to gamify and track progress all year. Any thoughts on that, Hunter?
I mean, it's like, is that in the document? You said that's like it's
in that article.
It?
It's like the intro to the article that I share with people that I'm now going to update and put the new one in. But I really just wanted people to know that I didn't set off to create this. This kind of created itself over that period of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things I think that gets kind of built out of necessity, especially at for a higher level CrossFitter. I think it's probably too in the weeds for your affiliate athlete and even maybe a GPP-esque athlete, not because it's not valuable, but because I feel like there are so many other fundamentals that probably need work ahead of dialing in the perfect pace on certain machines. When it comes to the competitive side, and actually optimizing for, the ideal amount of, either effort, pace, work, score in a workout if it includes other stuff. like we've talked about so many times, the machine provides free information in the fact that there's a monitor and objective data associated with it. And if you're a competitive athlete and you go into an event and you don't know, I had this conversation with Justin actually about his K run at the CrossFit games. It was kind of funny. Even I talked to him about that. I was like, what was your pace? And I knew what the answer was. And he kind of admitted like, well, I didn't really have one. And even guys on the start line were like, where's your watch? And Justin was like, I don't have one. And I'm like, motherfucker, you got a free pacer that could be attached to your wrist. And that's like that, maybe that was the difference. Maybe that's the difference for him in 10, 15, 20 points, because he came out a little bit too hot and limped a little bit to the finish line, and like you for sure. So kind of a real world example of those gears. And I've even talked to Kelly about this, and like when we get into the actual nuts and bolts of the kind of like breakdown where we go power, anaerobic, aerobic, there are like, again, when you get to the higher levels, you can really notice like where an athlete has gaps. And share this because Kelly is, I'm sure she wouldn't mind, but like Kelly is an extremely strong and powerful athlete, right? We're talking like a near 250 pound clean, like 300 pound back squat, like some seriously impressive numbers. And she's a master at this point. And on the other end, she actually really improved in some of the aerobic stuff. The running event was was a far better finish than maybe we both expected and would have historically expected. She really, really struggles in the easiest example is like the 2-2-2-3 interval type format. Like 2 very hard minutes of work, 1 minute of rest to recover. And it's like, it's the game of like, can I get this workout done in 3 intervals, or do I need the 4th, or can I even get it done in 2, whatever. She really struggles with that, like, kind of black hole area of it's not a dead sprint, but it's still a really, really hard effort. And to be able to maintain a certain pace there and then get off the bike and do double unders, go handstand push up, bike hard, double under, like at the Masters games, that's an area that we need to improve on within the context of the sport of CrossFit. So, and that, all that to say is like, there are very distinct kind of effort levels that get attached to workouts and time domains. The machines are the easiest place that we have to really kind of dial in as far as like objectively measuring output, as opposed to, doing burpees and thrusters and like how'd that feel sort of vibe. So I think it's a really useful tool. I think it's the way that, not to get too far into like the thing or the sheet itself, but like I think the improvements to it are, I think it's valuable because there's definitely a distinction when you get into the upper end power output ranges.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those tools that you need to have in your arsenal as a competitive CrossFitter.
One of the things that's so fun about my job is with my higher level competitors, there is this like ultimate proving ground and pressure for a coach where it's like, this athlete struggled with this thing and it was obvious for them and for everyone else. Can you move the needle on it? Because we're going to test it again and everyone's going to know whether you can get somebody better at this thing. And a lot of those things over the years have been machine or running related. So like for me, so much of this came from like, one of the things that can be really tough for people is like, I'm not a runner and I need to become one. And having an actual plan of like how to move the needle for them and show them in real time how they're doing before they go to retest is incredibly important. So again, that's where so much of this came from, was like, I need to be able to get this person better, obviously. And then the psyche of an athlete who has a weakness, how do I show them that they're getting better in real time? Because we can do all of these different intervals and categorize them in whatever way that we want. But if they are kind of random and always changing, whether it's always changing modality, always changing, whether you're measuring watts, calories, it's an AMRAP, it's a specific distance, sometimes it can be hard for athletes to know whether they're improving or not.
Yeah,
so
I think, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
I was going to get into the explanation of the actual matrix. So if you want to add,
I think it's like to your point, the this is a good lesson, because like an athlete can get frustrated for the wrong reasons really easily and they not know it. And an example of that is like I coached the class today that was skiing in front squats, and front squat's a perfect example of a movement where it's like, I don't like front squat, I don't lift it I can't do it very well, it's uncomfortable, it's like yada yada yada, whatever. Understood. Then you start to ask the athletes like, well, what don't you like about it? It's like, I'm not very strong at it. It's like, well, why aren't you very strong at it? Because you back squat a house, like, why don't you like it? It's like, well, it turns out that like it's kind of uncomfortable, like my wrist hurts a little bit. And it's like, okay, well, your overhead, your shoulder mobility isn't great, and because you sit at a desk all day, you walk around a little bit of kyphosis, like rounding of the upper back. It's like, so the problem isn't the front squat. The problem is like, let's just tackle a little bit more mobility in like the upper back area. Let's spend a few minutes before you start the front squat session or take a class. Like, here's a couple of mobilizations to help like loosen those positions up. And all of a sudden it's like, well, my wrist doesn't hurt anymore. I can keep my elbows up, and now I can actually use the leg strength that I thought I had, but this front squat workout was making me question. And now it's not that I hate the front squat, it's that my mobility is not great and it makes this exercise harder. So instead of being upset about not being able to hold a pace, for example, or not knowing what pace to hold, and therefore the unknown element makes you anxious, confuses you, makes you not like the workout, like we now have a way to like at least answer a question for you, like, what's the pace I should hold? Well, this is the pace you should hold, and this is why.
Yeah. All right. So the gears matrix is essentially, we'll keep it simple to start and then talk about the additions. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are 8 gears, 1 being the slowest, 8 being the fastest. And the matrix shows all the gears and then each machine. And the idea would be, we'll pick 5th gear for an example. AMRAP 4 minutes times 4, rest 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And then the matrix shows row, run, ski, bike, erg, echo bike. If you were to do an AMRAP on any of those machines or during a run, what would your pace be? What would your calories per hour be? What would your wattage be? You want to make sure you're recording all of those so you have the context for how they're different. And then you kind of have to audit a little bit of like, okay, was that like crash and burn? Was that really good pacing? Did I kind of nail it? And we'll get into a little bit more there. But over time, you have this sheet that gives you on 5 different machines, 8 different speeds, which honestly takes care of basically the entire range of what you would be using in almost any context within the sport, which is really cool. And that's when we can begin to bring in this concept of using linear progression. And, strength is just a little bit easier because we can always just add, we can grab the fractional plates, we can add 2.5 pounds, we can add 5 pounds, we can add 10 pounds, depending on what the lift is. And over time, we see the progress. If we don't have that same option on a machine, there can be a bit of the like pissing into the wind, because you are increasing GP through stimulus, but the athlete IQ kind of stays stagnant. And bringing those together is how you learn how to be an actual competitor. So the original gears matrix only showed, no, you're good. I was just making sure we weren't cutting each other off. I will only make sure on the times when we're not going to. So the original gears matrix, again, is just gears 1 through 8. Aerobic stimulus, higher volume, sustained pacing, meaning I am going to be 100% sure that I can hold this pace throughout, but I want to be in kind of rough shape by the very end of the last round. That's gears 1, 2, and 3. Gears 4 through 8 are a bit more of an anaerobic stimulus. It's moderate volume, and it's reach pacing. What I typically like for most athletes when it comes to the build stuff is what we would call it, gears 4 through 8, is you choose a pace, sort of like the aerobic, that you're positive that you can hold, and then you audit after a round or two, like, feel pretty good today. I can go for negative splits. And that can just be, that doesn't need to be like I'm going from a 155 to 154 to 153. I like the projected finish and just being like, if I get a meter, that's a negative split, right? So I'm sort of working in that regard. And then by the end, what you would do is you would take your average over the course of those. You don't want to take your fastest, because then you'd be real sad when you go to try to repeat that workout. But you take your average over the course of all of those. And the workouts in the original came from actual workouts I was writing for specific athletes. So all of those workouts I created, I realized, man, if they, and this makes sense in CrossFit, but probably less so in the monostructural, sort of endurance community. The more separate speeds they do, the better they are in the retest. The more I repeat workouts, especially weakness workouts, the lower they do on that. So there is something to, like, you still give them, maybe their wheelhouse workouts 8th gear and another one is 1st gear. You still give them those because it creates a great stimulus. They really execute on it well. They probably go into it with a bit more confidence, that sort of thing. But those workouts, again, were written for specific athletes. And what happens is you get an athlete who either from a physical or mental standpoint can kind of lock in specific areas that another athlete can't. And one of the workouts that was in the old Gears Matrix was like a 7-minute by 2, and it was either 4th or 5th gear, and it didn't really fit very well with the rest of them. And basically, Caroline could do it, so you guys needed to be able to do it. Turns out that's just kind of that middle distance, which is fucked up, is a bit of wheelhouse for her. Again, whether it's a physical thing or a mental thing. And a lot of athletes were just like, what the fuck is this workout? Like, this is harder than like my 6th gear workout. Like, I don't understand what's going on here. So after enough time here, it's like, okay, the new matrix, we're going to make sure that we know which workouts slot in really well and create that different speed for more people. And then the ones that don't are going to be simple math on work to rest ratios. So and another thing that I did is I very much, like, these are gears 1 through 3. This is their own classification. The work to rest is significantly less. And then when we jump up to 4th to 8th, giving people an opportunity to definitely go faster when we're going to that moderate volume. And then the other addition here that you're going to see if you are already using this is I have zone 1, zone 2, and then all of our power output stuff. Because again, the more data that we have, we know our floor, we know our ceiling, we have all these different tools that we can use, and we can just go back to a place where we have that. So I'll have the PDF for you guys to download. I'll have an Excel sheet for you guys to download if you want to be able to type your stuff in there. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of, like, okay, we need a Gears Matrix 2.0. We know that this one works well and this one works well and this one works well. But if I go back and look at the data, where are the discrepancies? Where is someone jumping 4 seconds, you know what I mean, in like one gear to the next, which would be a lot for like a C2 machine split. And then where is someone either going slower or staying at the same speed from one gear to the next? And that's what gave me sort of outliers there.
So I have a question. The addition that I think is really useful is the power output ones, what we call P1, P2, P3. P3 being 30 seconds of work, P2 being 20 seconds of work, P1 being 15 seconds of work. So the implication there is just, you've got it in the notes here, like a controlled send, a nearly full send, and then like a reckless sort of send. We're getting really nuanced here, but so this is 15, Good. The P1, the most powerful output one is 15 seconds of work.
Yeah.
So theoretically, you could go quite a bit harder than if you were going for 30 seconds. Where do you see, where do you think of programming when it's like even shorter than that? So true, like using a machine for true, and at that point we're probably talking more about like a bike or just straight up sprinting, which I know we don't do a ton of, but like where do you think of like the 5 to 10 second output of just like that is full all out reckless, but it's also from a physiological perspective it's short enough where your even anaerobic system doesn't really have time, your glycolytic energy pathway doesn't even have time to kick in. It's purely you're just tapping out your ATP and then getting full recovery, and it's borderline a lifting session at that point. Where do you can athletes expect to see that sort of stuff? Do we say like that's kind of covered in the lifting?
This is honestly the perfect question to also explain the difference between power output gears and like your normal ones, because there is a range. So I would say if it's going to be conditioning and it's a continuous machine, so I have it broken up on here. If it's a continuous machine, you're thinking your Echo bike, C2 bike, pushing a sled, running, that sort of thing. If it's a ski or a row, we find that people can sustain the pace for longer because of the recovery period. So that's upwards of 2x timing when it comes to that. but I will start an athlete that needs to work on this all the way down at 10 seconds.
Okay.
That's about the lowest that I go there. I would consider anything outside of that to be more in the strength realm if we were separating strength and conditioning.
Yeah, I just think,
And
10 seconds is that number that I was kind of thinking of as like.
and what's funny is that has actually changed a lot in the last few years. So tongue-in-cheek a lot of times, but people start to call it the machine games and not the CrossFit games. With the amount of monostructural conditioning that's in the sport now, the athlete's ability to repeat with less rest is getting a little crazy. So am I talking to someone who's on the GPP program or an open athlete? Having them go 5 by 10 seconds and resting as much as they need to be able to truly send it each time is awesome. It's great. But I have athletes who are so aerobically inclined that they can do every 3 minutes for 5 sets. They can sprint for 15 seconds on an echo bike and their power output doesn't drop across 5. They need to go up. I'll go 16 and then 17 and then 18. In P1, I want your last score to be worse than your first score. Like, I want to go in and tap that to the point where you're not doing as well. In P3, I flip it in the opposite direction. How long can we go and maintain power output, right? So we would do a thing where we would actually probably be shortening that just to make sure that we're good there. And the gears here are incredibly imperfect. I got a message from a competitor recently that was like, hey, sometimes the timing is just different. Like, I can sprint for, let's say it says that it's P3, but sometimes it's 25 seconds and sometimes it's 35 or 40. Like, those are different speeds. I care more about the stimulus. I like the idea of the speed because I can track if I'm getting better over time. But we don't tell athletes to stare at their P1, right? Like, they manufacture it with their effort, and sometimes their nervous system's along for the ride, and sometimes they've done a fucking nasty 5x5 back squat before. Other times they got 10 hours of sleep and 6 cups of coffee and they're ready to go, that sort of thing. So we're going to see real differences here. What we want to do is take really good notes about all of our power output stuff and see how it's trending in different spots, that sort of thing. And obviously, the longer you go, so if you are doing, every 5 minutes times 3 AMRAP 1 minute, row for calories, like, first and foremost, yuck. That's not very fun.
Yeah, I'm skipping that day.
You can probably get pretty close to see like comparing workouts day to day on something like that. But the true power output stuff, I've said this on here before and I'll say it again. I have to check a box. I have to mention this every 6 months for my ego. The first time I ever did the Maffetone warm-up, I did 20 cals on the assault bike in my garage in 12 seconds. That was a PR, and it was like, wow, warming up is so cool. I have yet to do that again. So, it really just changes. Like, how much water you drank, there's just so much to it, the way that you feel. And everyone's had those days where they just feel like a monster and they feel like they can repeat power output. Then you have those days where, you're literally your second one. You're like, wow, no glycogen in my hamstrings. Good to know.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, at that level of effort, it's more like we talked about, kind of like a lifting session than a conditioning one, where it's like you go into the gym and you're supposed to build up to 90% of your 1 rep max, and you're like, motherfucker, that is 10 pounds over my 1 rep max today, just based on how you feel, your nervous system and stuff like that. Yeah, I just think I think there is a big difference between a 10-second effort. A lot of people can, repeat that over and over again. Once you start to creep past that, obviously we're tapping out the immediate ATP energy stores and are banking on some muscle glycogen to assist. But
the other end of the spectrum that has been added, and again, just to give you that full picture of your monostructural conditioning, is our zone 1 and zone 2 work. This is all below threshold. It's long and slow. It's your forever pacing. You can base it on multiple things. So you can do more pacing or wattage based zone 1 and zone 2 stuff so that you don't fluctuate as much. There's the idea of cardiac drift, where if someone is forcing themselves into high-end zone 2 and they're not super used to it, you're typically going to see someone get slower over the course of their whole workout from a wattage standpoint or a running pace standpoint. And we don't really want to teach the body to do that, right? Like zone 2 is not meant to be like, I'm going to flirt with threshold at 1 second in and then slowly get slower over the course of the whole thing. So we don't want that. And one of the ways that you can combat cardiac drift is you can start at the lower heart rate, or you can start at a wattage or a run pace that gets you into that low end zone 2 and eventually gets you to the high end zone 2. And then that way you aren't teaching yourself to go slower as you go. But the instructions related to this stuff are super important, because I think a lot of people do this stuff wrong, and end up essentially doing an extra like 45 to 90 minute conditioning piece, which is going to torch your nervous system.
Well, it's also like at that point you're pushing into like kind of that zone 3 range, which is like the junk mile range, right? It's too slow to get the aerobic benefits, or too slow to get the like anaerobic or any sort of power speed benefit, but it's too fast to get the aerobic benefit of a zone 2 session.
And if you are fast enough that zone 3 is actually a good workout for you, then you're really fucking your nervous system. You're going in the wrong direction.
Exactly.
If you're super fit.
You're fit enough to go fast,
right,
and think that it's benefiting you.
So the window that we create is a heart rate of 160 minus your age. So if you're 40, 160, that is a 120. That would be the low end of your zone 2, flirting with zone 1. And then 180 minus your age. If you're 40, that's a 140. So you'd be staying between a 120 and a 140. I personally like to use that to establish our pace or our wattage. And then I either keep an athlete, and this is in a remote coaching setting, but I keep an athlete at the same wattage over the course of a whole phase, and I increase the time that they're going, or I keep them based on, if it's schedule or, their strengths and weaknesses. Maybe I keep them at 45 minutes or 50 minutes, and we try to increase the wattage or the pace incrementally over time. But I find that athletes, and this kind of goes back to the whole point of this thing, do a little bit better with, are we getting better? Like, are we getting better here? They can wrap their mind around it, and I can do it in a safe way. Like, I can really tell if an athlete's ready for me to just give them a few extra watts or a few extra minutes.
You just talk, so maybe good time to clarify, because for a while there we prescribed the 180 minus your age as kind of like, that's the heart rate, and that's what the Maffetone method kind of recommends. There were a couple of caveats where you might add or subtract a couple of beats per minute to that heart rate based on your fitness level, but for the most part, that's actually like a fairly high heart rate. 180 minus your age for zone 2 is like probably slightly outside of the the traditional strength and conditioning. Like, I think it's 60-70% of your max heart rate. And I know that's not a great metric.
Right.
But
because 2 actually stands for how much lactate you have in your blood, and not.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, so why the building in of the range now? So now we've kind of just you added the 160 minus your age is kind of the lower end, to 180 minus your age being the very upper end. Why did we go away from just the singular kind of number?
So 2 reasons. One, the true intention of that was to be around there, but never go above it. So, which is, again,
Instead, people saw it as a challenge to
exactly. Yeah. So that's one reason. This gives us, again, a range to teach ourselves to what this is actually supposed to feel like. And then the other side of this is dependent on how much of a beast someone is in a particular modality. We see program after program, and we had issues with it 3 or 4 years ago as well. So it's not just other people, but athletes will skip. Really, top 10, top 20 athletes in the world are skipping their zone 2 bike sessions, especially on their active rest day, because they're like, I'm fucking torched. You know what I mean? I'm holding 250 watts here for an hour. Like, how is this my rest day? This is crazy.
Yeah.
And so what we need to do is that heart rate the fitter you are, the lower that should be, that number should be. That's one super easy way to put it. If someone who's not very fit goes out there and flirts with 180 minus their age while they're jogging and walking, they're fine. you are going to be absolutely fine.
You need the fitness.
You need the fitness. You're not torching your nervous system. You're not going fucking fast enough to torch your nervous system.
Anything's going to torch your nervous system. Just get after it, guys.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's not a problem there. But then we go to the opposite end of the spectrum, and the greatest runner who has ever lived, or at least has been measured, basically only runs in zone 1 in training because it's like a 630, 640 mile for hours. And if he was to go run in zone 2, he's probably 550. And what does that do to you? Your muscles are not along for that ride, for that mileage, for that long, that sort of thing, especially, once you get beyond your golden years of testosterone and growth hormone flying out of your veins at all times. So as we trend back towards, so again, the better you are on a machine relative to how you want to be compared to your competitors, that sort of thing, the closer in zone 2 you should be to 160 minus your age. Again, we see this all the time on the C2 bike. Hey, why don't, first of all, do the fucking warm up and do the RPMs the way that you're supposed to, right? 85 to 95. I don't allow myself to up the damper on a particular wattage until I've gotten up into the mid 90s. That's how I know my body is agreeing to become an aerobic machine. And what I used to do is just push the wattage at all costs and flirt with that 180. And again, not the worst thing in the world. I'm not very aerobically inclined, and I don't fucking work out anywhere near as much as 99% of the people listening to this thing. But we are using this for 2 reasons. One, we use zone 2 so that we can help someone who is, aerobically challenged, I believe is what I put in there. But then also, when we get into a competition phase, we need to be able to add volume without overtraining. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to create volume through lower intensity and more time. Those things multiplied together. So if you have super high intensity, you can get stimulus from a very short period of time. We move those sliders into the opposite direction, and that creates something where we are moving the needle, and you actually might even feel better because you did it. So those would be the 2 reasons that we're doing those things. Zone 1 is interesting for a couple reasons. Recovery for most people. I mentioned this either on the podcast or just to Hunter anecdotally, but if I do an hour and a half long bike ride outdoor on the road, and I'm in zone 4, zone 5 the whole time, if I take a rest day the next day, the day after that, my HRV is still struggling. I'm still having a rough time. My body's like, hey, do we need to be in zone 5 for an hour? Is this necessary? And I'm like, I live in zone 5, bitch. I'm fine. Don't tell me I'm dying watch. I know how I feel. If I do, and the longer I do it, the better actually, but if I do a zone 1 session on a C2 bike the next day, not only do I feel better the following day, but my watch tells me I feel better. And so those things actually line up together. So my HRV improves in that space. So it's a really good recovery tool. And then if you're a fucking monster on a machine, you will get fitter from zone 1. The fitter you are in a particular modality, the lower you can have your heart rate and still do better. And that's just because you're going faster. That's just kind of what that means. So if you are a monster on the C2 bike, or you struggle to get your heart rate in range for that, care more about your wattage. Hey, if you can get on there and, 200 watts for a guy, and you don't worry about your heart rate as long as you're not getting up beyond what we're looking for. It's not a big deal, right? That's that stimulus kind of, it's more of speed related than that. So if I'm doing that for an athlete, I just tell them, hey, every 5 or 10 minutes, look at your heart rate and make sure we're not being stupid here. Make sure you're still in zone 1 or zone 2.
What's the range for zone 1?
The range for zone 1 is 160 minus your age down to 140 minus your age. So for me, that's roughly 100 to 120 beats per minute. And that is very much a true conversational pace. I don't really... Go ahead.
Are you getting aerobic zone 2 benefits from zone 1? I guess probably depends on you alluded to it, if you're aerobically inclined and don't need the zone 2 volume per se.
There's just really good research. If you were to decide if you really struggled with zone 2 running would be an example, you're I basically can't, and there are athletes that are like that. Walking a ton is really good for your aerobic output. Now, again, what's the volume, right? If I was to do 6 hours a week of zone 1, I would probably get a pretty good benefit from it.
Sure.
That single session is probably worth half of what the zone 2 is for somebody like me. So I think we're just using those sliders again, right? The lower the intensity, the more we have to have. And we see that physiologically, like in the ice bath. Like you can get the exact same benefit in an ice bath that's 50 degrees if you sit in it for 15 minutes or whatever. I'm just giving an example, same idea with the sauna. And I don't recommend it. It's actually worse. Those moderate temperatures for a really long time. But so again, it probably depends on how you're able to do it. Now, the other place that this has specific to Misfit Athletics is if you wake up on a day that you're supposed to do your zone 2 bike and it's your active recovery day and you're really in the shitter, like you don't feel good, something's going on, it's the beginning of a phase, HRV is absolutely tanked, that's when you would do a zone 1. And then the zone 1, I mean, if you're, David Goggins Jr. and you want to do what you got to fucking do and you want to be in a black room, go for it. But zone 1 could be like, I'm going to watch a shitty 2-hour movie and just pedal and every once in a while look down. Like that's something that you can do again to really like dampen the
definitely more of a recovery bias for zone 1.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I don't want to. Part of me wants to do it, but I'm not going to do it to you guys. I'm not going to read all of these. I'm not going to go down and read every single one. If you are a Misfit Athletics athlete, you're not going to notice some massive difference to these things. Like, for instance, 8th gear used to be 8 times a minute 30 with 4 minutes rest. Now the quote unquote benchmark of it is 7 times 130 with 330 rest. It's very similar, but I saw too much of a jump in power output in that. I want to keep an athlete in that place where they're, kind of having to fight to get to that place. And like little sort of nuanced things here, 3rd gear and 4th gear are separated by an entire minute of rest in terms of round to round. Again, to designate the idea of aerobic threshold work is still a bit longer and a bit slower. We get into the anaerobic, you get a little bit more rest, you get to push harder. And I mean, it's really just volume is the lowest in 8th gear and the highest in 1st gear. And that's inverse in terms of rest. So you get 1 minute of rest and 3.5 minutes of rest. Those would be the differences between 1st and 8th gear. A lot of the workouts that you're going to see this year at Misfit Athletics is another iteration of me realizing what it takes for an athlete to improve and giving you guys credit for your maturity. We were really bad back in the day at we changed workouts and the way that we wrote stuff in hopes that you guys would think it was fun and do more of it. Like a lot of what we wrote, like we used to write zone 2 where you got to like jump off and do a Metcon because you were bored, that sort of thing. And I used to really like him and haw over, okay, this week it's an AMRAP, this week it's rounds for time, it's distance, it's calories, we're still doing distance and calories, but they're all fucking AMRAPs. Every one of them is an AMRAP because I am trying to get a particular stimulus for multiple athletes, right? Like if I know you're pacing and I want to throw you a bone and say, hey, we're going to run 800s, I can figure out exactly where that goes into this. But I mean, we've got athletes doing vastly different workouts. If we give them, it's this many calories or it's this much distance, right? It's just so much different. And I switched to, with certain athletes, AMRAPs only so that I could really convince them. It's another linear progression thing. Hey, you held this pace for 4 minutes. Now let's see if you can hold it for 5 or 6 or 7, whatever. It was easier for this whole system to work. So much of what you guys are going to see in the programming this year is going to be AMRAP this much times this much. And then it's also a lot easier to compare scores workout to workout, like significantly easier.
Yeah.
In terms
I think
of
you should, just a thought, I wonder if it would be useful for you to plug in that pace derivatives link, or the little sliding graph that shows what like a 2 minute per 500 meter pace equates to in cals per hour in wattage.
Yeah,
have you seen that?
I have.
You had to have seen that.
So one really cool thing here, nerd side note, I have made all of those in Excel and since had ChatGPT do them and make them look better. And I had the amount of fucking things I could export for people. So I can actually add that as well. Yeah. That would be one thing that you could add there. And I do, again, recommend having like slashes in your gears chart showing like, okay, I held this and then I held this and then I held this. And so if you're starting from scratch, here's how to think about it. You have none of this entire thing filled out. You show up day one, and I'll pull up a workout here real quick, or actually I just read one of the ones off this. So 4th gear, AMRAP 6 minutes times 3. You would do row calories, rest 2.5 minutes. You have your brain and your personal history, and you probably have some rough idea of what you should do for this workout. We find that athletes are very wrong when they show up at our programming for what these things are. But the good thing is all of your machines or your watch or your phone will give you the average pace that you end up doing. We don't typically see people go too slow and then get faster. We almost always see people go way too fucking fast and then get significantly slower. But in either scenario, it's going to spit out an average, and that is what you put into your gears matrix to start. Now, if you range all the way from a 145 to a 155 in a workout, outlier, and you put the 150 in there, it's probably close. But like the next time you do it, figure out whether, you started at 150 and again, you can project it, go a little bit faster. You're like, I actually still might be like a 151, 152. And then that is how you update the matrix. We find that athletes are 2 to 3 seconds per 500 meter or 1,000 meter, if it's a C2 bike, split on a machine between gears. 2 to 3 seconds. So if your 3rd gear is a 145, you can estimate your 4th gear being a 143, something to that effect. That's typically what we see for jumps. And the fitter you are, the closer those things are going to be together. Basically, like the distance from 1st gear to 8th gear, if you are aerobically inclined, should be shorter, essentially. You should be able to just kind of keep getting after it, that sort of thing. And when it comes to running, it's about 15 seconds per mile, roughly, per gear. So if your 1st gear is a 7-minute mile, your 2nd gear might be a 6:45, and then a 6:30 and a 6:15. That's just kind of historical data. And then the Echo bike this one's pretty easy. It's usually about 1 RPM. Sometimes it's 2. But like the fitter you are and the harder you can go in those aerobic ones, it's you kind of just jump in an RPM every single time you go there. On the women's end, we see low 60s roughly on the 1st gear, and we see 70 to like low to mid 70s depending on the size, all the way up to 8th gear. And we fill these things in, we project based on the ideas that I just gave you, and then we use it as linear progression. You continue to show up. Hey, this is what I got the last time. I've been feeling really good lately. I'm going to fucking, try to chop a second off. I still think negative splits are the best way to do that, so you can figure out whether your idea was actually a good idea or not. And you just over time try to get faster in each block on here. And it's simple, boring, good old fashioned. If you want to get better at the thing, do the thing, mixed with constantly varied functional machines performed at high intensity, different speeds.
Variable intensity.
We'll clean that up. We'll clean that up a little bit. So yeah, it works really fucking well. And if you lean into it and you lean into the test-retest model, you're going to get better at stuff, basically.
I think my only additional note on that, when you were talking about like, I'm going to go up 1 RPM you were saying like 1 RPM-ish per gear.
On the Echo bike, yes.
On the Echo bike. Okay. Well, I mean, this still applies, because just understand, this is more just like a kind of tip here. Unless you are using the exact same concept, and this is concept 2 specific, unless you're using the literal exact same concept 2 machine, I don't mean like it's a rower and it's the literally the model down to the serial number, like that your damper, a 4 damper on machine A is going to be slightly different than a 4 damper on machine B. If you want to, like, I mean, we're talking about optimizing to the second of pace here, so might as well go the full Monty and like understand that's where the drag factor feature in those concept 2 machines plays a role. Your goal would be to match the drag factor more so than the damper setting, because it might be like 4 on one machine yields a specific drag factor, and then it's like on the other machine it's like 4.25. It's really small. It might be more than that, but like,
dude,
it can
sometimes
make
it's
literally
sometimes it's over a damper.
Yeah,
like
it's a full damper. I've had I've had some crazy zone 2 sessions where I'm like, I am the fittest man alive. And then you go down and use the other brand new C2 bike and you're like, you are the slowest man alive.
So here's how I deal with that personally. I have to have, again, we all the way back at the beginning here, I talked about my dad bod and I get wrapped around the axle way too much. But I have a way to deal with this. So let's say I'm doing third gear and that is we'll use round numbers. It's a 2-minute pace for me. I will go onto the bike and I will move the damper until 2 minutes gets yielded from 85 RPMs.
Yeah, you're doing the exact same thing.
And then I know that I'll go look at, I'll right up to 90 RPMs and be like, okay, that's this. And here's like my band. I'm going to start at 85 RPMs. That's going to be my floor. And then knowing that I am going to try to get those negative splits there. But we know from the cycling community that that's kind of that sweet spot of where athletes are essentially the most efficient on the machine. And of course, with the drag factor, that's probably a little bit different, but that's probably getting too far into the weeds. So I don't pay attention. I don't give a flying fuck what the damper says on that thing. I get on it and I'm like 85 RPMs, slide the damper, 2 minutes, done. Like that's the setting that I'm going to be on because my bike at home is like legitimately 10 seconds, or is it 10 seconds? No, it's like 20 watts, I think, like different on a one damper than some of the bikes here. And it feels different too. And I would say the bike is probably the biggest culprit on that. The swings aren't as crazy, but if you are, again, getting into the nitty gritty, if you are wondering why your row feels shitty for that day and you have your strokes per minute data and you're like, that's it. I'm 2 strokes per minute low. I was probably on the wrong damper, like that kind of thing. And that's just the kind of stuff where like that could go all the way back to talking about athletes being confident in a particular setting and not in others. Like that can fuck people up. Like, I don't have it anymore. And it's like, actually, no, there's just a shitload of dust in your rower.
Yeah, literally, that's the...
Yeah. Has absolutely nothing to do with your fitness. You don't need to quit and become a triathlete anymore, or probably
maybe you
do in this instance. All right. I think that's it. You can hit us up on social media. You can email me, coach@misfitathletics.com, if you would like this and you're not in Telegram or sort of already on the program. It's a way to steal free programming. It has the workouts written in it. Does it tell you exactly how we do them and how often and how to test and retest? No. But it's a little sample, It's you go into Sarku and you're getting a couple nuggets of that chicken. You're like,
walk by.
I should probably go
minutes
back.
later, you got to walk by in the other direction. Got a mustache on.
Oh, we got a lot of window shoppers at Misfit Athletics. We always have.
Yeah.
Some of the best athletes in the world have been Misfit Athletics window shoppers. Why don't you just come on in? All right. I don't know. What do I have for final thoughts? I just think that giving people actual paces to hold, actual paces to beat, tracking how good you are over time within these workouts, and they literally range from 15 seconds to an hour and a half, just gives us an opportunity to help people get better in a bit more of a controlled environment where CrossFit in its original form tends to be a bit more esoteric and hard to measure and hard to take really good notes about. It gives us an opportunity to work on our conditioning, to work on our GPP if we're rotating machines as well.
It's kind of weird. It's like probably the defining feature of CrossFit is that it is like, it's measurable, observable, repeatable. Like you could calculate your power output on the thruster burpee row workout, but it's a pain in the ass and you're not going to do that. But you can do that much more easily with machines. I think my final thought is just like, hey, you probably, you listener, you athlete, you probably track your lifts pretty maniacally. You know what you've hit for 1, 3, and 5, maybe, or just a very, very, very good general idea. This is the same thing. You have to, and
it's more important.
It's more important. It's a conditioning sport. You have to understand these things. I think they have the potential to. It also just helps you inform you. Like you don't need to necessarily think about the gears matrix as like machine specific. It's like, there are intervals. Let me see here. Try not to backtrack too far, but like in that gears matrix, like you've got working windows that range from 1.5 minutes to 15 minutes. Like, how many Metcons do you do that live in that range of, probably more realistically, like the 4-minute Metcon all the way up to the 15-minute AMRAP, like gear 1 through 5. Like, how valuable would it be to know what your pace is supposed to be in a 14-minute AMRAP of various
And
movements?
how you feel.
It's like, well,
what does that feel like?
And that's the point, right? That's the connection. It's like you might not be able to see a heads-up display with your burpee thruster power output and compare it to your gears matrix, but you can certainly compare the feeling that you have, like, what does my heart rate feel like? What does my physical capacity feel like at this point? 6 minutes into the 14-minute AMRAP. Like, you can use this to extrapolate things that apply even more directly to the sport, which are, our conditioning tests.
Did we do it?
We did it.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Misfit podcast. Go Steelers. Wilbur is safe.
Blessing. Go
I will
Wilbur.
Report back on whether I catch myself in the mirror and shake my head again, or if we're trending in the right direction. If you would like, again, I told you guys how to contact me personally if you would like this information. If you want to jump right into the program, you can head to the link in bio on our Instagram and sign up on Strivey or Fitter. If you're looking for our affiliate programming, you can head to teammisfit.com, click on sign up now, and you get a 2-week free trial on SugarWOD, Push Press, or StreamFit. See you next week.
Later.
Misfits!
You're a scrappy little misfit, just like me.
Biggest bunch of misfits I ever set eyes on.